Hi, I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner. Today we're going to be talking about young people learning a little bit about grace and the 40th anniversary of the Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists. Come on back. Hi, welcome back. We've got a great show for you today, and in the studios with me, I'd like to introduce you to Ms. April Casey, who's Vice President of GRACE, and I'm going to give you all the opportunity to describe what GRACE stands for, and Mr. Joey Hollins, a good friend. Haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you, Mr. Hollins here. He is President of GRACE. Hello, everybody. So glad you could come on board. I remember seeing you, Joey, a few months back. I was getting my computer fixed, and my computer guy was meeting me at the Burger King.
Right.
And you walked in all happy about this program. So what does GRACE stand for?
GRACE is an acronym for Giving Resources Among Children Everywhere.
Wow.
Yes.
So this is really going to totally make a difference, because you have been an advocate for a long time in making sure young people, especially young men, really understand what it means to be gracious toward young women and some of the things that they need to do. And you guys have really always been out there trying to make a difference in the community.
Yes.
So tell us some of the things you've been able to do so far.
Well, so far, GRACE actually started or culminated or morphed from an organization, a group of people, part of the Martin Luther King Nonviolent Support Group. And when the Ferguson movement and Mike Brown's death, a few of us saw that it was a time to do something a little different, because we were going to meetings like everyone gathering, and we saw that there was something we can do ourselves. Like everyone else, there were so many different groups that started up. And what we saw that we wanted to create an intervention for young men at that time, because we know by age 12, they've already had instilled in them certain values. And so what we wanted to do was create an intervention program. And that's where the Men in the Mirror Suits and Ties program come in.
That was really, I really like that whole concept. It's actually you're teaching young people etiquette skills when it comes to sociology. Is that what we're talking about here, April?
Yes, we want them to sort of, as we know, everyone doesn't come from a home that teaches them, how to love themselves and how to love other people. We firmly believe that love is part of the problem that we're lacking in our youth. They don't love themselves, so they don't love other people, which makes it very easy for them to do what we would deem the disrespectful things that we see today. So part of that is teaching them to really figure out who they are, love themselves, learn how to establish healthy relationships with their peers, their parents, the opposite sex, and to sort of start to mold them into thinking differently than what some do think today, so that they're still at that age where we can kind of change that mindset as they grow into young adults, and hopefully they understand that the skills that we're trying to provide and instill them with are lifelong skills, and that it will help them to move on into productive, positive members of society.
That's great. There was a coworker of mine that came into work one day and just was very excited about what you all are doing. You went to a school and did a demonstration and started working with some folks. Are you trying to get more into schools or into churches, or where are you trying to go with the program?
I think we have a combination of both
Okay.
right now. We started off at one church over in the north side, and now we're moving towards the south side. So we're sort of kind of just moving ourselves around the city so that we can gain as much exposure, as we can. And obviously, eventually, our hope is to have a permanent home so that everybody, feels like they are welcome, and that's one thing that we do like to present, that the program is open to any and everyone.
Describe the program to the audience. Is this a 6-week, 8-week program, and then what do the young people get a chance to learn? Joey?
With that, it's actually 2.5-month or a 10-week program, right? And with that, and we have a boys and girls. Okay, we started out Men in the Mirror Suits and Ties for boys, and then we added the ladies in our group, say, okay, it was time to do one for girls. And we said, okay, great. And we did one for girls, which was called Dressed in God's Glory. Now, earlier, you dressed in God's glory, and you had asked, was it school or what have you? It is a combination faith-based, community-based, because we do want to have the faith, the spiritual piece involved in it. But within those 2.5 months, we teach things like identifying values, goal setting, not basketball, football goals, but personal goals. Because if you don't have goals or dreams, you may fall off and follow someone else's goals or dreams. And once you identify your own goals, you'll know that if someone is about to do something that's different from what you want to do, you said that will not get me to where I need to go or feel my goals. So goal setting. We also have conflict resolution. We also have communication. We said it's okay to speak slang around family and friends, but there comes a time you have to switch and do standard English.
So you're teaching young people how to become bilingual.
And communication as well.
Yes.
We call it code switching.
There you
Code
go.
switching.
Code
Code switching.
switching. I called it bilingual when I was raising mine.
Yes,
Like,
and it's
you
okay
know,
with weekend language, right, around families and friends.
But still, when you're out in public and when you're trying to work with people doing presentations, interview process, you have to switch up, and you have to move into this mode. But then when you're around your buddies and friends, yeah, it's okay. But it's so important, and we see it a lot where we are wanting our young people to kind of grab it and get it and move forward with it. So when you work with the young people, after this 2-month or so program, do they come back again? Are you recycling? Are you studying to see who's doing better, or what's happening?
That's where our Tier 2 comes into place, which we're in the process of putting together now. Since we've now had 3 courses, 2 sets of men, and then one group of young ladies, is now we're taking that to the next level. Say, okay, what now do we need to do? We want to keep them engaged. We want to sort of be able to track them, make sure that they're utilizing the skills. And if and sometimes they need someone just to talk to. So we want them to know we're not just here for those 10 weeks. We're here however long you need us. And also to work with getting them in volunteering programs so that they can kind of, start to also understand how giving back is important. And maybe it might help them to identify a career option or a choice, or even as an entrepreneur, if they haven't begun to think about that. So the more things that we can expose them to, the better off we feel like they begin to see that their options are more than just, oh, you can go to school to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor, which is okay, but that's not cut out for everybody.
Right.
And we also want to, advise, college isn't for everyone.
Right.
So we want to be able to give them as much as alternatives to that as well, because some people just don't do well in school.
But getting some kind of training,
exactly, a trade
or
school,
something.
Right. And so we want to be able to, to expand what has been typically rendered to kids as options for employment. And we're big proponents of entrepreneurship as well.
So you in our discussions earlier, you were talking about an entrepreneurial program or something like that you all are interested in getting started with the young people. So tell us a little bit about that and what you hope to happen there.
Well, that will be the merge of another group called Memphis Entrepreneurship Academy, and essentially it's sort of like with Grace. It's a 10 or 12-week program in which the kids learn how to write a business plan, they learn marketing skills, they learn how to basic coding to design websites, and they literally start off with establishing a business, and we work with them and their parents to be able to take those businesses to make them live. They're not just a dream. If their parents are willing to, sort of be in that role to assist, these kids, with some of them that I've dealt with in the past, are business owners at 12 years old.
Right.
So,
right. Oh, we've seen quite a few.
You see that. You see that. You
the
see
bow tie kid.
Yep.
With
the young lady with the little girl with lemonade that's got her lemonade in Whole Foods and a lot of organizations.
Yes.
So we want to push that. You don't have to work a 9-to-5 job. That you may have to start off that way.
Yes.
But if you have goals and aspirations, and that's where you can look to see, okay, who do I need to connect with? And we also want to teach networking to them because, as we all know, networking is key. It's not what you know, but who you know.
Most definitely.
So,
it's always about who you know. You have an interesting background. You have been in law enforcement.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that. I had no idea that you worked for St. Louis City Police and Kansas City.
Yes, ma'am. I went into law enforcement at 21, so I've been in it on and off for 21 years now. I sort of can't give it up. It's in my blood. And that's one, hence too, one of the courses that we do teach is also legal interactions, to teach them basic, constitutional and civil rights, as well as, sort of guidelines of how to interact with the police. Because in the time that we're living in, it's a very scary time for especially our young black men.
Yes.
So we want to establish that relationship. And it's not just about the citizens knowing how to behave, it's also about law enforcement knowing how to behave. So I have law enforcement officers come, I also have attorneys come, and we do role playing so that they kind of understand how easy it can be to get yourself into trouble, especially with our young children. They don't always realize the actions that they're taking, of the severity of those repercussions if something should go wrong. So it's an opportunity for them to sort of see, okay, I now feel a little bit more comfortable when I interact with police because now I feel like I know what I need to ask, I know what I need to do, and if that doesn't go well, here's what actions I need to take involving my parents and so forth.
So you get a chance to go through some exercises.
Yes, we do
did
a lot
this
of role
years ago
playing.
with some kids, and it has helped a lot. Joey, I met you through a good friend of mine many years ago. Has passed on, bless his heart.
Bless him.
Ed Nutt, you are a former fireman.
Correct. Did it for 22 years.
22 years for the city of St. Louis.
Correct.
And I saw you guys out and many times fighting some fires and doing some things. Is that something that you encourage young people to look at getting into as a career?
We had set up a program with the city of St. Louis. It didn't connect because sometimes timing is off, and transportation is another problem. And those are some of the concerns that we find that here in St. Louis and just in any area, transportating with the parents being able to move their young people around. And that's something we're working on. April had mentioned, you had mentioned about the legal interaction.
Yes.
That's something I would say is the young people said that was one of the most empowering things they liked.
Very good.
Because they never knew how to communicate or what to say if they were ever stopped. They learned in certain communities the fight or flight syndrome.
Okay.
And you can't do either one of those.
Right.
Okay,
It's
so
not enough.
that's imperative, right?
It is imperative because I get nervous if I'm stopped for whatever reasons, and then sometimes, okay, everything's going in your head, then what do I say, what do I not say, I don't want to upset this person. And nowadays, with what's been going on all over the country, it's kind of like, okay, how do I handle this? First thing, I think keep your hands on the steering wheel because you don't want anybody thinking you're about to go for something or do anything crazy, because it's and for a young person.
Yes.
Where the maturity level has not grown as much as with adult individuals, that has got to be.
And if I must say, Robin, in one of our workshops, it's 10 workshops. One of them is communication and relationship building with family, friends, and classmates. And all of that pulls together on looking at not only the verbal, but nonverbal communication.
Exactly.
We teach them that if you see, for example, if we were to see an officer and you were to share with him, as April was saying, your basic constitutional rights.
Right.
Your basic, which is your right. And if that officer is sort of irritated by you sharing that information, you would have to be able to see the communications that the officer is putting out. And you may have to step back and go around another way or just do a woosah, quiet moment. Because you don't want to make it any tougher or worse than what it is. And in the role plan, we went through several variations.
Very good.
Right, which is, we know is real, that's out here today, and we try to stick with that.
Great.
So with that, we also do the vocational. We have speakers that come in with different vocations. We do the soft and hard skill for interviewing. So we have 2 classes in vocational. And once they graduate, we give them suits and ties.
I love that. I think thank you so much. You all are more than welcome. Please come back. We'd love to have some of the young people come back and talk about their experiences with Grace and some of the things they've learned. This is phenomenal. We need more programming like this. And there's so much partnershiping that's going on here with different organizations that could really benefit from what you all are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for tuning into this segment. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name's CJ. A few years ago, my father became seriously ill. I did what I could do before he passed, but it took its toll. I lost my job, my house. I'm getting back on my feet, but I don't know when there'll be food on the table. How'd I do, CJ?
We could be twins.
Well, cousins, maybe.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the studios. I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner, and with me right now is Miss Aja Williams, who is president of the Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists, and along with me also is Miss Linda Lockhart, who's historian of the Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today about the 40th anniversary of this upcoming Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists this celebration. Wow, there's a lot of history, 40 years.
Wow,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my God, tell us, Miss Historian, tell us, how did the organization get its starts?
Well, in the fall of 1976, so 40 years ago, I had a chance to go to the first convention of the National Association of Black Journalists. I was a reporter at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch at the time. I came back and I was all excited and energized. I met a lot of people from around the country who were
They
promoting
are
this.
energizing conventions. Great
Right, yeah,
conventions,
this was very small though. This was the very first one. So we had maybe about 100 people. These days we have
Really?
2,000-3,000 people show up for the convention. So it's grown a lot in 40 years. But anyway, I came back to St. Louis and gathered all my friends from the Post-Dispatch and from the St. Louis American and other news organizations, KSDK, I guess which is KSD back in the day.
Yes.
When Robin Smith was on
Over-
KMOV and
Yeah.
KMOX TV at the time. Got all my friends together and said, you guys, we've got to do something like this. This is amazing. We need a local chapter. And it was my big brother, Gerald Boyd, and my other
Wow.
big brother, George Curry.
Wow.
They took the reins and rode with it from then on. We said, we're going to make this thing happen. Professional organization to help professional development, but first and foremost, how to train the next generation of journalists like you.
Oh my God, yeah, then you all started the Minority Journalism Workshop, which Aja went through at first. I was the guinea pig, one of many who have gone on and really done some great things throughout the country. And have
Absolutely.
started workshops like the one that was created here in St. Louis. We've had a lot of young people that have come through the journalism workshop. You were one of them, Aja, and your husband, right?
Yes,
Oh my
both of
God!
us.
Tell us about that. Is so cute. You guys been in the workshop. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, I was a part of the Jackie Joyner Kersey Boys and Girls Club in East St. Louis,
Okay,
and they had seen an ad
I
for.
did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, they had seen an ad for the workshop in the St. Louis American or the Post-Dispatch, and they immediately brought it to me because I had told them I'm really interested in becoming a journalist. And so I signed up, and my husband, who had already been a part of it for the previous year,
Yes.
was back as well as a senior in high school. I was a sophomore in high school, and yeah, we became great friends, but more importantly, we got a lot of different journalism training. And so we were both, I believe, in the print section for that very first year, and all of the instructors were wonderful and just said,
Yes.
you really have the talent to go far, just keep with it. And so I came back for the next few years, all the way through my senior year, and even came back when I was a student at Mizzou, and it's led me to where I am today.
Wow. Yeah. Now you've moved on. When I first became acquainted with you, you were with KSDK at the time, working on the internet side of everything, right?
Yeah,
You were
I was a
that.
digital producer.
Now you're at KATC, the 9 Network.
Yes.
And you're doing just awesome stuff.
Thank
I mean,
you.
really, no, you are, and plus now president of the organization. I mean, I think it's very positive. And this is one organization like the one I had on previously and others that I have on the show where this organization gives back to young people, grabs them and say, here's an opportunity, this is something you want to do, and you start developing them. Same thing happened with me. I had no clue what I wanted to do. This is a trivia event that they're showing on the air now. We'll talk about some of the things that we do. And George Curry accosted me at a college, Forest Park Community College, where we first started holding them. And I'm like, I'm not quite sure which way I want to go. And then boom. I was encouraged. I love writing, I know that, and I had a gift for talking and just making people move. And so the rigors of it is so fantastic. It totally got me ready for working in these newsrooms across the country. It really did.
And that's the main idea of the organization, is that we want to make sure that there's never an opportunity where news organizations can say we can't find qualified applicants who are people of color. And so the idea is to support each other as professionals, as well as to make sure that stories are told in a fair and balanced way that are reporting the minority community, and certainly growing our own, having young people coming up out of the program.
You have no idea how much I've run into that across the country where, for example, while working for Fox News in Texas, Dallas, I couldn't believe it. there was a big story that was done about Bill Clinton, President Clinton at the time, going to Africa. And they, you know, he had this entourage of African-American congressmen, and he took a secretary. They threw a picture of his secretary, and it was not his secretary. And prime example of our teachings, no. I stopped the newsroom down and said, this is not the lady. And they make those mistakes sometimes, not realizing we have to tell this story correctly and get the narrative correct. So
exactly.
Isn't it, and do you all feel that in the processes of becoming journalists and doing our own stories, is the narrative being told correctly, or do you still find yourselves having to stand up and say, hey?
Most definitely, I think you still in a situation, especially in the newsroom, where you definitely are raising your hand to say, there's an issue with this story. I definitely remember when I was working at KSDK, and during the Michael Brown and Ferguson situation, there was quite a few red flags where I was like, we can't say that on the air. That's not accurate. That is not the portrayal of the Black community. And there was quite a bit of tussing and tumbling going on in the background and back scenes, but I think that's why it's so important that we express the need for not just African Americans, but for more Hispanics and Native American and Asian. People of color are needed in newsrooms to be able to make sure that things are being told correctly and for those communities.
Yeah, I mean, because if I had not stopped those guys in that newsroom, the wrong picture of the secretary of Bill Clinton would have gone out. And it's like, no, this is not what we're going to do. And I wound up having to put together a whole tape reel of nothing but those things and who those individuals are that are around Bill Clinton at that time.
And one of the biggest challenges that we also still face is, though, we're bringing in lots of new people, talents as reporters, in the entry level, but getting that management level where you're an editor, where you're a producer, where you're behind the scenes, you're deciding what kind of stories are being covered, that still continues to be a challenge yet today. And I've been working in this business for at least these 40 years. And I am fortunate now, I work for St. Louis Public Radio. I am a copy editor there. I also am their outreach specialist. And I do get to sit in the news meetings, and like Aja said, you know, you've got to have somebody at the table when the decisions are being made, because after the fact, it's too late. You don't want people coming protesting and complaining about you had unfair coverage. But, you know, and even still, it's a struggle to have your voice be heard.
It still is these days, because you can look at the newsrooms around just the St. Louis area right now. Still very few of us in the newsrooms that are making decisions. I see a lot of our young people on air now. That's great, but who's behind the scenes really, you know, saying, hey, look, we need to go cover this, we need to look at this, hey, that's not the way we want to cover that. It really still is not happening, but we'll continue to work on that particular issue as we go along here in the millennium. It's going to happen. And a lot of that has to do with ownership, and we'll get there too. One of the things on my bucket list. Tell us about the 40th anniversary celebration that's coming up. I think this is pretty fantastic. It's going to be at the 9 Network.
Yes.
And the public's invited?
Public is invited. It's December 3rd, Saturday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. at the 9 Network. The tickets are going to be $40 for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
We're looking at this almost as a kind of a homecoming. A lot of our former students are coming back.
From all over the country.
All over the country. Marcia Davis, who works now at the Washington Post. She's an editor. She's been there. She was in your class.
She came in with me,
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
We're hoping Ann Scales from Boston, who was at the Boston Globe. Former officers of the program. Of the organization, Marlon Walker, who was a former president before Aja's at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He'll be coming back, one of our key speakers.
Awesome. And National Vice President.
And National Vice President for print.
He's National Vice President
for
now?
Print of NABJ, he is.
He's just...
He's doing it, yes. He's moving on up.
Yeah.
And then we'll be going to be honoring some very special people. We're really excited about that.
That is going to be great.
We're honoring our trailblazers, Mr. Bernie Hayes, who's a legend in broadcast.
Yes.
Dr. Donald Suggs, who's publisher at St. Louis American, and Miss Mary Cannon, who's been in broadcast and now is a public relations professional. She was at KMOX, I guess, at the time.
KMOX TV, yeah.
TV.
She was there with the V when the V hit,
Exactly. So we're recognizing them as trailblazers who made it possible for all of us to come behind them. And then our special living legend is going to be Miss Benita Cornute of Fox 2 TV, because she's out there doing it, still reporting every day out on the streets, and she's my girl. She's awesome. So we're very excited. It's going to be a great time, and we hope everybody will come and meet some of these people who've been here before, and meet the young people, our students from this year's workshop.
Yes.
We just finished our workshop this year, and so we've got some young people we're very proud of.
Great.
Who are in that next generation.
And the workshop is held every fall. You are in the recruit mode of getting folks involved with it and letting people know that these are high schoolers you're looking for specifically?
Correct, high school students.
Okay, high school students to come on board and they need to get in contact with this organization.
So for next year, we just finished this year's program, and I'd say that over these 40 years, we've had maybe more than 1,000 young people have gone through this program.
Wow.
All of them haven't necessarily gone into journalism, but like your guest said in the earlier segment, we taught them skills that serve them for life in whatever way they go. So
I never knew I'd be an accountant. I mean, who would have thought?
But you're doing it all, girl. So
you do a lot.
But you never know. And then one thing that I did learn while working across the country and here in St. Louis, that I had to be flexible about this field because it's crazy. Everything's changed now. New media, wow. I mean, are those some of the skill sets that you teach the young people in the workshop too?
Yeah, this year we really did focus on making sure it was a multimedia workshop so that students got to taste a little bit of TV or doing video because video is everywhere.
Yeah.
Doing print and learning about the basics of news writing. Public relations as well. And we touched a little bit on social media, but hopefully next year we'll be able to even touch even more on that.
That's fantastic. What are some of the giveaways that you hope to give the young people or someone that may be watching the show about becoming a journalist? The newspapers, you were with the Post-Dispatch. When I worked there for a few years, you were there, and you were a scholarship winner.
I was.
With the Post-Dispatch when you got started and graduated from, was it Mizzou that you graduated?
I went to Mizzou with the scholarship at the Post-Dispatch, exactly. And the idea is that you get to learn so much. I mean, I love my job today because I learn something new every day. And so you become a better citizen. You know what's going on, and you want to help tell those stories. You know, we all are storytellers from the time we were little kids. We like to write, we like to read. And so if you have those basic curiosity and you want to ask questions and you like meeting new people and learning new things, this is perfect for you.
That's fantastic because and being able to give that to young people and help them understand what's going on. You've got a young one coming up.
Yes.
Do you want him to become a journalist?
You know, that's a fascinating question that I haven't thought about. But
Your husband's an awesome photographer. I mean, he
thank you.
really shoots some beautiful pictures of you guys.
I mean, I think we're going to encourage him to be whatever he wants to be. I mean, I definitely think he'll take after us in our creative side for sure.
Very
and
good.
so
Very good.
I'm going to encourage him definitely to at least look at writing and what mom does in social media and digital media, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you do it really well, lady. You do it really well. So for anybody get in contact about this anniversary coming up, give us some information now so they can get in contact with you. I've got everything up on the website on the full screen so they'll know. But
exactly.
Again, the dates are again for the 40th anniversary?
December 3rd, Saturday, December 3rd, 7 p.m. at the 9 Network. We also have a Facebook page, so you can look for the Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists on Facebook.
Or email us at GSLABJ@gmail.com.
That sounds good, and thank you so much, ladies. I wore my knot today in honor of Robin Smith, who's running for Secretary of State. She's running for office. She's a politician. I'm so happy for her.
You never know where journalism is going to take you.
Well, you never know, and I love it. Thank you, ladies, so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on. We're going to have a really great 40th. Thank you so much for tuning in to City Corner. I'm Robin Boyce. You have an awesome week.